and your case has reached hearing stage and you don't know what to do. You're about to testify in court as a witness and you don't know what to do. Here's a step-by-step process from beginning where you swear the oath itself, to what you say during the testimony, to the end and the close of your case. This is what happens when you give testimony in court, and this will help my clients specifically. If they need to refer back to this video before trial, they can. My name is Gloria Nafula. I'm an advocate of the High Court. I've been practicing law for the past 4 years and accumulated quite a bit of experience in family law, specifically succession, custody, and divorce. So today we'll be talking about how to testify in court. It's actually a very simple process. It is laid down in the law very clearly, so you don't have to worry. When your case has been heard, pre-trial has been done, and then now it's time for hearing, typically by this stage you've already filed your witness statement, so it's time to appear physically or virtually in court to give your testimony, right? The hearing stage. So what happens when there's a hearing? Here's what to expect. Number one, don't be nervous. We've had clients who just out of nerves couldn't even get words out because they were so scared. So it took quite a bit of time to calm them down. It's actually not a very complicated process. We do it every single day. It's just giving your side of the story. You're given that chance to give your side of the story because that's what justice dictates, that both sides should be heard. Number two, your advocate is gonna lead you through the process. You're not out there on your own. Unless you're representing yourself, your advocate will guide you through the process. You follow what they say. You don't have to memorize anything. It's your story. You just have to tell it. Okay, so another thing to expect is questions will be asked, especially when we get to the cross-examination stage that I'll talk about further in the video. You will be asked quite a bit of questions, and I'm going to tell you how to respond to them, but don't be shocked. You will be asked because they're going to try and poke holes in your story. And then also expect that you'll be telling your side of your story, and the other person will be telling their side of your story. And the court will go with whoever's story is more coherent. I personally have been doing a lot of family cases such as divorce. Like the meme over here, it says from first date to court date, you never see it coming. For divorces, you only go to hearing very few times. And if it's undefended, the hearing itself can take 10 minutes maximum. So if it's a fast case, formal proof, things like that, the hearing will go quickly. So what is the first step of hearing? This is the oath, the swearing of an oath or saying an affirmation. So this is under the Oaths and Statutory Declarations Act. So all persons who may be lawfully examined or give or be required to give evidence by or before the court, or having by the law or consent of parties authority to examine such person. Basically, if you're going to testify in court, you need to swear oath. This means that you're promising to tell the truth. You're swearing using God that you're gonna tell the truth. If you're not religious, that's when you make an affirmation, which instead of saying I swear by the Almighty God, you say I honestly and sincerely swear that, right? Without saying God. But mostly in Kenya, we swear oath. So the meaning of swearing of an oath is that before testifying, you must take an oath, which is a promise to tell the truth, okay? And a witness who gives evidence without oath, if you go there without making an oath, will render that testimony potentially inadmissible. You will not be taken seriously because you can just say anything. But if you're under oath, we assume you're telling the truth, and it's a crime to lie under oath. It's a crime of perjury, okay? So here's a sample oath, because a lot of the times our clients are curious about this. So you will say as follows. You'll follow what I'm saying as the advocate. I usually guide you through this, but if you just want to go through it yourself, here's the oath. So I, and then you say your name. For example, I'm Nafula, right? So you say I, then you'll say your full names. Swear by the Almighty God that the evidence I shall give before this court touching the matter in question is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. That is the English version of the oath. So that's what you'll say, and then you'll start giving testimony. The Kiswahili version is naapa ya kwamba ushahidi nitakayoutoa mbele ya hii koti kuhusu hii kesi ni ukweli mtupu. Mungu nisaidie. right? So this is how you give oath. It's a very simple process right before we begin the swearing in. It's like a meeting, how a meeting always begins with a prayer. Here you're promising to tell the truth. And also, here's an interesting fact. The court needs to determine, for example, if a child is giving oath, whether they actually know the difference between the lie and the truth. So now, after we've given oath, now we start with the main part of your testimony, which is the examination in chief. Basically, you're telling your side of the story. If you're the plaintiff, you're going to begin, and this is the first part of the testimony, which is going to be your story. Yeah, your side of the story. And most times in this case, you have already written your witness statements, and we just adopt it to save the court's time, and then bring up if we're going to ask questions, we just bring up issues of maybe clarification or things that weren't mentioned in the witness statements. But to make things go fast, this could be as easy as just adopting the statement and moving on to cross-examination. So what happens in examination in chiefs? Our teacher taught us this way when we were learning law. He called it 5 wives, 1 husband, which is 5 W questions and 1 H question. So we'll ask you questions like, what were you doing? Where were you doing? That is, if you are not adopting your statement, or maybe there are a few things we need to clarify, you'll hear, where did this happen? It's questions that need you to elaborate on them. How questions? How do you do this? Those are the questions we ask in examination in chief. And the law is clear on this in the Evidence Act sections 145, 146, and 150. So it's the examination of a witness by the person who called him. So even the other side, if they have their witnesses, they will also examine in chief when it's their turn to call witnesses, okay? And leading questions must not be asked in examination in chief. These are the questions like you saw in that meme. For this bone, would you say he wanted to pick it for quite some time? This question such as, you were at this place, right? Well, it's a yes or no. You're not allowed to say that. Or you're telling us that you are this. It's like I'm leading the question, and you have to say yes or no. That is not allowed in examination in chief, except for very obvious things like your name is so and so, your address is this. Those are very simple, obvious questions, the only ones that are permissible. This examination by the party who has called you, number 1, is that you're not allowed to ask leading questions, okay? No yes and no questions. Did you go to that mall that day? You're not allowed to ask that. In examination in chief, you will ask, where were you on this date? And you will explain. And then the witness will give the evidence orally, or it can be admission, like you admit the statement you already wrote with your lawyer. If you're doing it with us, we've already adopted your statement. So I'll ask you something like, you remember writing a statement with your advocate? Then you'll say yes. And I'm like, would you like your statement adopted as your evidence in chief? And you'll say, yes, Your Honor. So when you're answering, you're always answering to the judge, not me. So you're like, yes, Your Honor. Of course, I've written here in civil cases, testimony is often guided by a filed witness statement. This is not the case in criminal cases. In criminal cases, that's why we got lengthy examination in chief, because we want your whole story to come through. I don't personally do criminal cases. So documents after this are produced as well. So during your examination in chief, I will also ask you that, do you remember filing your list of documents? And then you say yes. And would you like your list of documents marked MF5, if it's 1 to 7 or whatever, to be your evidence in chief? So then the next part of the testifying is going to be cross-examination. So when I say that is all for examination in chief, then we proceed to cross-examination, right? So you can see here is where now they'll start to grill you or ask you questions to poke holes in your story. So here you'll see in this meme, like, earlier you testified and I quote, I wouldn't hurt a fly. And yet the police found these unregistered weapons in your home, along with several dead flies. That means you are lying, and then you'll be like, no, I'm not lying. But this is now grilling you on whatever you've said in your examination in chief. So the applicable laws is again sections 145 to 153 of the Evidence Act, and it is called the cross-examination is the examination of a witness by the adverse party. So if I called you, the other lawyer will cross-examine you on your story to try and poke holes in it. So this is where like the the real games begin in a hearing at the cross-examination. Even there's a verse in the Bible that says like, somebody seems like they're telling the truth until they're cross-examined. So this is where like you flesh out the inconsistencies of the story. So the key features of a cross-examination is that leading. So first of all, the opposing party will test the credibility, accuracy, and consistency of your testimony. If you get nervous and confused and then start saying all sorts of stuff, you could be ruining your own case because you're reducing the consistency of the story. So the key principles are leading questions will be asked. For example, you're like, oh, you say that so-and-so committed adultery, correct? And then you'll say, yes, I said that, and you said, have you brought any evidence to prove that adultery? And then you'll be like, oh, yes or no, such questions. We're asking you very direct questions that need yes or no answers. So we will challenge you on inconsistencies. If you have any bias, maybe you've been known to be a person who's a certain way about certain people, we'll challenge that. Prior statements you said in your statement, you said that you knew this plot of land existed, and now suddenly in your testimony you're saying you don't know. Such inconsistencies will be brought out clearly in the cross-examination. Okay, I know what you may be thinking. What if I mess up the cross-examination? Am I done? Is it over? No, don't panic. We can save this thing. This is why the court has something called re-examination. This is where, after that other advocate of the adverse party has cross-examined you, I'm back to re-examine you on things that need clarity. Okay, but we do this with a pinch of salt just so that we don't undo our whole testimony. So this is under section 145(3) of the Evidence Act, and it says where a witness has been cross-examined and is then examined by the party who called him, such examination shall be called the re-examination. So what is the purpose of a re-examination? To clarify on issues raised during the cross-examination. Maybe you said, oh yes, I knew of the adultery, but I didn't say anything. That one, we can correct it maybe by saying, yes, you did say something by the text messages we have attached in the witness statement. Maybe you forgot, maybe you got confused. This is just to clarify, okay? And then no new matters may be introduced during the re-examination unless the court permits. So you've already given your testimony. This is not time to again start a new side of the story like, oh, but then I forgot, this happened. No, this is just to clarify on issues that already happened. So don't be scared after cross-examination, because your lawyer will ask you the final questions to clear up confusion and explain things that came up during cross-examination that may have gotten distorted because maybe of the heat of the moment or confusion. So here's a thing to note. The court may ask you a few questions just to clarify. They may be like, if the judge asks you a question, just answer what they've asked, because the court is also writing down your testimony and trying to get a clear testimony as possible, all right? And then after that, if we've cross-examined and examined all the witnesses, we'll close our case and give the other person a chance to be examined as well. And then when they close their case, we're done with the hearing. We move on to the rest of the procedures in court. You are no longer needed, and we proceed to do the other documentation, submissions, wait for judgment, and then the thing is done. So if you have a case, if you're interested in consultations, click the link in the description. And see you in the next one. Bye.